I'm Rashida Dow of cheatersontheloose.com, and I'm here today with Samantha Everette, the queen of vacations. I'm interviewing women who took time off work to travel. I want their stories to motivate you to take the step for yourself. And make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be notified when I release the next video. All right, Samantha, let's start at the top. Where did the name Queen of Vacations come from?
It came from an H&M t-shirt.
Really?
It's like so basic. I don't even know where the t-shirt is now. Like, it's somewhere in the depths of either my storage unit, because I haven't claimed a home yet because I'm still traveling. But yeah, I went to H&M. I was living in China and I saw the t-shirt and I got it and I went on vacation. And then I posted pictures and people were like, yeah, you are the queen of vacation. And I was like, ah. And my name before that was Sammy Joe Go-Go. And
okay.
yeah, Queen of Vacations is a lot better.
All right. So that is your name on IG.
It
and,
is. Yeah.
And it represents sort of your brand. It is who you are. It's how you're known.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you, go ahead.
If people can't remember my name, they just call me Queen, which is also like, yay.
That's awesome. All right. So when the people said that name really fit, how did you get to that point? How did you get to the point where people saw you in a Queen of Vacation shirt and they were like, oh yeah, that's you?
So I was working overseas and I decided to start a blog to just let my friends and family know what I was doing back at home. And since I was overseas, I was taking the US vacations and I was taking the Chinese vacations and I had 4 trips scheduled home a year on my contract. And those trips could be anywhere from 10 to 14 days. So that was 40 to 50 days off just for home visits. And I didn't necessarily have to go home. I just didn't have to be there. So a lot of times I didn't go home. And then I had, how many days do we have? Like maybe like 20 days?
I think so, something around there, yeah. Yeah,
and then I think China gets another, I want to say 25 days. So I had a third of the year off. And that doesn't include weekends. So I was just going everywhere. And then people were like, yeah, you're always on vacation. You're the queen of vacation. Yeah.
Okay, so when you were living in China, what places were you typically going to? Was it mostly like Asia or were you all over the place?
I was all over the place, but I didn't come back to the Americas. So like I wouldn't take a vacation and go to Mexico or something because it was so far. If I came back home, I was coming home to New York or North Carolina, like to see my friends and my family. And then, so I would travel mostly, like I went to Bali twice, Thailand twice, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia twice, India, so just anywhere in Asia. I went to Tokyo, yeah.
Okay, so you sound like you're someone who loves traveling. You moved abroad to China, which I think is a very bold step to begin with. But let's talk about how your love of travel began. And one of the things I want to touch on is solo traveling. So when did you start solo traveling?
Well, the first question, how it began was, I took my first trip at 13. I studied French because I had the dream of one day moving to Martinique. And part of our reward for studying French for 4 years, like complete torture, was going to France. So I went when I was 13 to France, and then I am a visual artist. So when I was 16, I went to Italy for a month. Even though I was with students, I kind of felt like I was by myself because I was the only Black kid. I was one of like 3 Black women in an entire town. One lady I'm still in contact with. The other lady was some, African lady that I never met. I would just see her like walking around randomly. But then when I started my career, I started traveling again, and I would get sent to China for a month at a time by myself. And this is like BlackBerry time. Like I had a BlackBerry. There was no Google Maps or like, internet. There was like an international calling plan, but people were barely texting. And so my first experience with traveling was solo. So I guess that kind of like made things normal, like normalized it for me. It wasn't like I need somebody to go with me because I was forced to go by myself from the beginning.
Okay. Did you enjoy those trips to China? You were a shoe designer, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what you went there for?
Yeah. I mean, I prayed to go for like 2 years before my first trip because I interned before I started working. So my boss at my internship in college, he actually, I don't know if you guys have heard of Fry Boots, but he relaunched Fry Boots before they had like a really big women's department. But then he had like an outs with the owners, and he ended up moving back home to North Carolina and doing his own cowboy boots. And he hired a bunch of students, and I would see him going back and forth to Korea. I was like, I want to do that. I want to go. Can I go with you? And he's like, no. And he's like, you're going to have plenty of times to go. Like, cool your jets. You're going to go. Like, don't worry about it. I'm like, I want to go now. And he's like, no, eventually you're not going to want to go anymore because you will have gone so many times. I still haven't gotten to that point. I've been like 70 times, but I still, if somebody told me to go tomorrow to work over there, I'm like, okay, let's go. Yeah.
All right. Is it that you like China or that you like the travel? Or both?
I actually it's both. A lot of people don't like China. They don't like Chinese culture or the differences between US and Chinese culture, but I actually really enjoy it. I think they're amazing people. They're freaking hilarious. They're quite disgusting sometimes. But as someone who can't wear traditional deodorant, I'm like, ooh, we all stink. Great.
I wasn't expecting that. Okay. So just to give a little bit more of a flavor of China, what cities do you typically go to most frequently?
So the factory base is in southern China. So like, if this is China and my thumb is Hong Kong, like this is where I was. And like Beijing's like up here somewhere. So I'm in the south of China, and the south is a lot like how we have the south here. So like imagine Mississippi versus Manhattan. So like Shanghai and Beijing are Manhattan. I was in Mississippi. So just lots of manufacturing, or actually I would equate it with like Newark versus Manhattan. Like you could live in Manhattan, but if you're doing any kind of industrial, like if you're in a paper mill or something, you're in Newark and it stinks. And there's nothing. Well, there's stuff to do now in Newark. If anybody is watching this from Newark, please stop talking about Newark.
Send all comments to her, not to me.
Yeah. So, but it was it was rural, but there were 8 million people. But there's only 2 shopping malls for those 8 million people.
Wow.
And the city is called Dongguan. It's in Guangdong province. And it's actually close to one of the biggest cities in the south, which is Guangzhou, which a lot of people may have heard of because that's where the World Fair is. Little Africa is there. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that city, but the city that I was in was just like, actually, little known fact, it was known as Sin City. It was the capital of prostitution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been traveling for a while for work, but you've been traveling for yourself since July of 2018? Is that right?
Well, I didn't so I got let go in July. And then I just freaked out and said, I'm leaving, I'm out. I packed up all my stuff. I left a beautiful Manhattan apartment, threw everything in a truck, went down to North Carolina, was there for one day in order to get the stuff from the truck into the storage unit. And then I left and went to California yes, it all gets like muddled around. But August, I started traveling and I did my first trip. I did the national parks in and around California, Utah, Arizona.
Okay. But let's back up a second and let's go to July. Did you have notice that you were going to get laid off, or was it a sudden thing?
I mean, the notice was kind of that they had already laid off like 1,500 people.
Okay.
And the company was getting sold, and they brought me back from China and didn't really give me any assignments.
Oh.
So that I was like, can I get some work? Can I get some work? Are you going to give me more accounts? Like managing these 2 people over here is really below my pay grade. So I feel like you guys don't want me here anymore. But I was okay because my boss was just like, you're good. You know, you're an asset to the department. We're going through some changes, but you're good. And then he quit. Yeah. So when he quit, I told him, I was like, once you're gone, I'm out. Like, I'm the top paid person in this department. Like, I'm gone. And he left on a Friday and they fired me on a Wednesday. And the only reason they didn't fire me on Monday is because they couldn't find me because I was bouncing between multiple offices. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was,
okay.
It was intense.
So you found out on Wednesday, and how did you get from I'm laid off to I'm traveling? What were the thoughts there? What did you have to do? Like, let's walk through that process. How long did it take?
It was kind of like a knee-jerk reaction.
Okay.
And it kind of stemmed from the fact that I had moved back from China in February. So January, February, March, April, May, June. So I'd only been home for 5 months after being gone for a year and a half. And I never wanted to come back to begin with. So when they told me that my contract was up in China, that I had fixed all the problems, everything was running smoothly, we don't need you there anymore, I legit cried like for a week every time somebody asked me about this. So you're going home? Like, yeah, we're going back to America. And so when I got let go, I was like, well, fuck it. I hate this place anyway. Like, let me just leave. Like, I don't want to be in New York anymore. I had knee issues and I lived in the 4th floor walk up, and I was just like, I don't want to walk up these stairs anymore. I don't want to drag 30, 40 pounds of laundry up and down with a bum knee. I'm out. And then I thought about it later, like a lot later. And I still think about it sometimes. I'm like, my apartment was so beautiful and my industry is there and I should have, but then I'm just like, you know what? You made the decision. So that's, this is your life now.
Okay. So you weren't worried about leaving your industry or about coming back to work or anything like that. You were just like, this is it. I'm gone. No questions. Done.
I really honestly was in shock. So I wasn't thinking clearly at all. And I think a lot of travel can be escapism, and that's kind of what it was for me. So I looked at it as like, I'm free. I have this opportunity to go and see the world, and I don't have to be here, and I have the money to do it. So let me just do it. And I just did it without thinking, and just like to get away from being fired. It's like, I'm not fired. I'm living my best life. And now I'm finally like settling and starting to think about it, and realizing that that's what it was. It was great. I wouldn't, I would do some things differently, but I probably would still do it.
Okay. So you rented a truck, drove down to North Carolina with all your stuff in the back?
No, I had a 3-bedroom apartment. So I went through a month of biting my nails trying to pick a moving company, because I'm like, okay, I have like Gucci bags and Prada shoes, and who is not gonna like ruin that and make sure my mattress isn't bent and my, bespoke shoes don't get moldy, because I actually had to keep it on the truck for a month. I can't remember. I think I started traveling in the middle of moving. So like I put this stuff in the truck and maybe I went on a trip somewhere and then I came back. It was such a blur. But basically I called Schleppers. It's the only truck that I had seen around New York a lot of times. And I just was like, all right, my best friend's Jewish. We get some Jewish movers. Let's do this. And yeah.
Okay. All right. So 3-bedroom apartment in Manhattan to having to live out of a suitcase, or choosing to live out of a suitcase for a year and a half now?
Yeah, it's like 4 suitcases and a hiking backpack and a storage unit. And my mom's closet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So besides the actual move, were there other hurdles you had to get past? Were there things you're worried about? Let's talk about anything that kind of got in the way of this decision.
Honestly, nothing got in the way. Like, I just didn't think. I just jumped. I just
jumped.
I just like once everything was packed up. Well, one thing is, I called my landlord and I told him I was moving. And once you do that, there's no going back. So that was one of the first moves that I made, was to call my landlord. And I think I kind of freaked out about having to pay my rent. So the first thing was like, okay, don't have rent anymore, and then you're good. So I called him, I'm moving out. And then like a week later, I called him and said, I changed my mind. He's like, well, your rent's gone up $500. So if you want to stay here,
yeah,
you can give me $2,600. I was like, so that kind of sealed the deal. And it was like, okay, yeah, I didn't want to pay $2,100. I'm definitely not paying $2,600. So now I just have to, and I just barreled through it. And I mean, finding the mover was probably the most nerve-wracking, because I had accumulated 10 years of stuff that I really loved from all over the world. And I just wanted to make sure somebody took care of that, because I wasn't willing to be a person that just sold everything. I also wear a size 12 shoe. So if I sell all my shoes, I'm not getting them back anytime soon. Like, I can't just go to a store and buy another pair of shoes. So like having my shoes taken care of. And also as a shoe designer, like, that was like, okay, as long as those are, my little babies are good, then I'm good.
Okay. So one of the things that people worry about the most when they think about a change like this is money. And how did you sort of feel comfortable that like the money part of it would be okay?
Well, I made 6 figures in my job for 10 years, and I'm a saver. So I saved half of my salary for 10 years. And I've been driving the same car since I've had my license, and I'm 35. So I just kept my bills low. I had roommates. So I just save. And then I worked the same job for 8 years. So I had 8 years worth of severance. So that's one paycheck for every year. So I had 4 months worth of pay. I think it was half of your pay for one paycheck for every year. So, but it ended up being like $60,000 or something. That's an insane amount of money to just, have at your disposal. And since I had already saved so much for my future, like I have houses, I have rainy day fund. I just took my severance and was like, that's going to be my play money. And when that runs out, it runs out. And so, yeah, money for me, particularly money wasn't an issue, like, thankfully.
Okay. And you're still living off that severance?
I am, yeah. I've done some contract work, and so I've like supplemented that a little bit, but mostly I'm like hanging on to like the last little bit of it until it runs out. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a plan for when it runs out?
freak out and run around the street naked. Like, there's no plan yet. That's like literally like rips me every morning when I wake up. Like, what are you gonna do with your life?
Okay. So
Yeah.
one of the reasons I ask is because it sounds like you enjoyed your work before. Do you think about going back to that work?
I want to go back, but I was a little blind. I was not completely blindsided, but I just wasn't prepared to leave that job. So I didn't make preparations to find a new job. So part of being a designer is you have to have a portfolio and a body of work. And I don't have that. And I think it was my subconscious way of preventing myself, because it's like it's a silver spoon. Like, who wouldn't want to make that much money? I got paid to draw and shop and, you know, drink coffee and laugh with my coworker. Like, I had a dream job. Like, I had a lot of responsibility on my shoulders and like working with the team. Like, I don't want to minimize it. Like, I just wasn't doing anything. But the enjoyment much outweighed like the job, you know, Excel sheets and paper, all that stuff. But I was also kind of burnt out because I just worked so hard and 4 teams and like, you know, $100 million worth of product like over my head that I'm responsible for. And so I kind of subconsciously screwed myself out of being able to just jump back into it. I don't know if that makes any sense. But it's not out of the possibility of me going back eventually, because it's a dream job.
Okay. But you're not actively doing anything to get back in the industry right now. You're kind of just enjoying the moment?
Yeah, I try and tell myself that I'm going to, and then I just, as I start doing it, realize like, I don't really want to. Like, it takes a lot to give yourself liberty to not be like super industrial and busy and work. Like, resting is a part of life that I feel like we just take not for granted, but we don't acknowledge that we need. And that's one thing that I have been wrestling with, is the fact that even if I could go work tomorrow, should I go work tomorrow? Will my mental state be okay? Will I get burnt out and completely exhausted in a couple months and quit anyway? Which is kind of what I would foresee happening until I can 100% say I'm ready to like get back in the workforce. And then the recession is helping me too. Like, there is no workforce right now. Like, nobody's buying anything. So
yeah. Okay. All right. So how did you describe this leap to your family and friends when you decided that, like, no, I'm going to leave like this career behind for now and I'm going to go explore? Did you have like a word or a phrase? Was it like a sabbatical? How did you describe it to them?
They have known me my whole life to be gone. So it wasn't out of the ordinary. Like, it was just kind of more of the same for them. Like, I didn't have to explain that I was going halfway around the world, because they're like, you're always halfway around the world, so
Okay.
Who cares? Like, there really was no conversation about it. It was like, you have the financial means to do it. And I think right when it happened, a lot of the narrative of like, I quit my 9 to 5 and traveled the world, and like, it was kind of romanticized and glorified and aspirational. So when I said I'm doing it, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, they were actually really excited for me. And like I said, I was always gone anyway. My job, I was gone like up to 6 months out of a year. So they were used to it.
Okay. So there was no one that tried to talk you out of it?
There was one person, and I wish that I had listened to him a little bit. This guy I used to date years and years ago, we're still friends. And he was like, you know how long it takes to save $60,000? Do you know people would kill to have that in their savings? Like, are you crazy? You're just going to go. And I didn't intend to spend all of the money, but I did intend to just freely like spend it as I wanted to. And he was like, you shouldn't do that. You should think about what you're going to do. You should set a plan. Like, do you just know, like, that money, like, it's going to be so hard to come by. But I don't really operate. Oh, I got to plug my computer in. I really don't operate in that mindset. Like, I've been super blessed, and just opportunities and wealth and just all those things are, I've been super blessed in God's grace and all that stuff. So I wasn't too worried about it. But sometimes, like, when I'm thinking about, like, oh, I have to get a job, I have to make some money, I'm like, I should have listened to that, that one person. But, you can't change it. So.
And I'm sure the last year and a half you've had have really shown you, like, experiences you wouldn't have had otherwise if you were, if you'd taken a different path. So.
Yeah, definitely a lot of growth.
Okay. Do you feel like you're developing in your own art more than you would if you were working at a job right now?
Oh, definitely. Especially my career, because I would spend 8 hours a day drawing. So with footwear design, you have 6 collections a year. So there's 6 months out of the year where you're shopping, looking at pictures, and then out of the 6 months, 3 of those months, so they split in half, 3 of those months, you're drawing. So I'm drawing 8 hours a day. So when I get home from that, I don't want to draw anything. Like, I just spent 8 hours, breaking my hand, drawing all these shoes, and mentally being creative and coming up with ideas. And I don't want to come up with ideas for artwork. So now that I don't have that taxing me, I have the mental energy, to do my own stuff.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of your art. I really love, like, your drawings. I love that you, not only do you show us the drawing, but you show us the work that went into it and the different levels and layers and the art terms. I don't know, but I'm always like, look at her. Yes. So you're impressing a lot of people, even if you don't feel like it.
And that's
creating fans.
Like, there's my audience, like, they see me as a travel person. Like, not a lot of people know I'm an artist. So, that's another thing, like, sharing it. Like, does anybody care? Yeah.
And I think that, like, Instagram is such a visual medium that seeing you, I think I first noticed your photography. Like, your photography was done really well. And then when you started giving photography tips, I was like, oh, like, she's not played and she's willing to share. And that's something that's really important on that for us, is to, like, if you have a genius, really sharing that gift with others so that they can say, like, oh, I can be better. I might not be as good as her, but she can help me be better. And with your art, maybe other people can consider it as an avenue for them if they weren't considering it before. And I don't think I've ever met a shoe designer before. So this is,
there's only a couple thousand of us. Like, there's not a lot of shoe designers in the world. Like, I just got super blessed that, so this is, like, totally different. I feel like it's totally different from travel, but when I was in college, I had a professor, I finished early. He's like, well, you have all this free time. What do you want to do? Like, you have to come to class, even though your credits are done, you need to do something. And he's like, if you could do anything, what would you do? I was like, oh, shoes. He's like, we don't have a shoe program. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do. He's like, well, if you figure out your own course, make your own course. So I literally, like, covered my feet in plaster and, like, made a mold of my feet and, like, made a shoe. And then from that, like, interest and passion, I said my first internship boss guy, whatever, came down, and I basically begged him to do a portfolio review with he's Black. So, and I was the president of the African American Design Student Association. And I was like, you're doing a portfolio review. And then you're hiring some of us. And it just, like, just kept going from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it shows that, like, you know how to get past hurdles. And that's something that I think is really important as you're traveling the world. Because I know we all have hurdles when we're traveling, and you've got to get around. So now that we're there, do you have any, like, good hurdle stories? Anything Any travel stories you're like, you will never believe this happened that you want to share right now?
I have so many. I have so many. Okay, this is when I was living in China. I invited my mom to come and spend a couple weeks with me. And I planned a vacation for her while she was there. So she spent a week and a half in China with me, and then we're going to India. Because it was like, nobody wants to go with me, and it's my mom, you love me. If you love me, you'll just come with me. I was like, I do not want to go to India. I was like, you don't have a choice. You're coming to India. So I got the visas, and I arranged, got the driver, picked out the hotels, set the route, all this stuff, like for a 10-day trip in India. And I print everything out before I leave, like all of my documents, my hotel address, with the picture of the hotel on it, my credit cards, my passport, the driver's information, anything that I need, I print it out and I put it in a folder. I left that folder on my desk. And where the airport is 3 hours from my house in China. So I get to the airport. I'm like, it's gonna be okay. Like I don't need any. It's also on my phone. It's gonna be fine. This is now at this point. This is like, iPhone 8. Like we got everything. We're good. And I get to the airport and they're like, "Where's your visa?" And I'm like, "It's visa number E789. 11,000." And they're like, "No, but where is the visa?" It's in my computer and it's in your computer. And they're like, "Yeah, we see it here, but where is piece of paper?" And I'm like, "There is no piece of paper." And they're like, "There's also no boarding pass then." And I'm like, "What? Like, it's in your computer. Like, you have to let us go. Like, our flight leaves in 3 hours. Like, come on." And they're just like, no, China is very by the books. Like they have billions of people to deal with. They do not let you get away with anything. Like it is just, you have to, if it says print it, print it. And I printed it and left it at home. It's also 6 o'clock in the morning. So, like 5 in the morning. Everything's closed. Like business center is closed. And I'm like, they're like, "Just go print it." I'm like, "But the business center," they're like, "Just go see if they open it." So I walk it takes me 10 minutes to walk. Like it's all on the other side of the airport. Walk there, they're not opening. Then I'm like, go to the police station is like right there. It's like I go to the police and like, "Ni可以帮我吗？我要一个 visa, 要复印到一个 visa." And they're like, no. And then it's like the passport place, and I'm like, "Can you just print the visa on a passport picture? Like I'll send you the file and just print." And they're like, "What is wrong with you?" Like, "No, we're not doing that." And I'm like going to like every single airline office to be like, "You have a printer? Will you?" No. Everybody said no for about an hour. I'm like crying. My mom's like, "It's okay. You don't have to go." She doesn't want to go to India anyway. But
Right.
I spent $10,000 on this trip. We're going to India. Like the money's already gone. Like the hotels are paid for, the flights are paid for. The only thing I had to pay for was the driver because I didn't pay him cash. I'm like, I'm out. Like this spent like $8,000. And I'm just walking around crying, asking everybody in Chinese to print it. And I finally get back to the airline. And I just tell lady, like, "I've asked everybody to print this for me. They won't print it." And so she's like, "Just go ask the manager." I was like, "I asked her already. She won't print it. And there's a printer sitting right there." And so I was like, "I just want to email it to somebody who wants to run it." And she's like, "Okay." And it's like, it's a security thing. Like you could send a virus and down the whole, airport. So they don't. But I was like, "I am not a terrorist. I will not send you a virus. I just want to print my fucking visa." And so the lady took pity on me. She walked me over to the printer, the first person who was trying to check me in, and she opened her own personal email, printed it for me. Then I get to India in customs. There's a white lady in front of me checking. She's like, "I don't have my printout." And the guy at customs like, "No problem. What's your number?"
What countries did you go to on your break?
On my brain. I have such a bad memory. Okay. I did, and a lot of it, like, it blends into, because I feel like living in China was kind of a break, so like, that doesn't count.
Fine.
I started out on the west coast of the US because I really wanted to travel and see what we had here. So even though that's not out of the country, that was like a whole other, thing that I'd never done before. So I feel like that counts. I did Colombia. Oh, that's what it was. I had to go to Colombia while my stuff was on the truck because I'd already planned a trip to go to a wedding. That's where I was. I did Colombia twice. I did somewhere. I did Cayman, Jamaica for a month, South Africa for 2 months, and I've done Latvia, London. I haven't been back to Asia. Oh, no, that was all still in China. I haven't been back to Asia because I spent so much time there. I really wanted to do like Black and brown countries. Lesotho, I did Lesotho while I was in South Africa. And I had all these, in Brazil. And I had all these plans to go other places, but I got sick about 5 months in. And so this past, from March until now, which is like almost a year, I've just been taking little baby trips, and I haven't been home for that much, but I also haven't been doing too much because I have these really bad headaches.
Oh no.
Yeah.
How do you pick where to go, and how do you do your travel planning?
A lot of it's like free flights, like if I can use my points, or if the flight is like $200 or less. Like I went to London for $173, which is like damn near unheard of. Usually it's at least $250, but I was like, I need $200 to go to London, I'm going. And then there was another flight. My friends were going to Latvia, and I was like, oh, it's like $200. It would have been like $150 to go to Latvia, but I waited and waited and waited. But that ticket was still like $230. I'm going. And then also if I have somebody that already lives there, and I can either stay with them. Usually I don't end up staying with people. I want it to work out that way to save money, but it just doesn't. But it's, at least if I have somebody there to show me around, like I'll go.
Okay. All right. And of all the places you've been, so lifetime, do you have a favorite?
No. I love all of Asia except Vietnam. I didn't really love Vietnam. I like the people I met there. That was really fun. I like everywhere I've been except London. I don't love London.
Okay. I'm personally very anti-Vietnam, but it's a story for another day.
Yeah.
I don't like the big cities. The small towns, I don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
They're lovely. The big cities, I was like, it's not for me. It's not for me.
I don't like cities anywhere. It's not enjoyable. I'm much more mountains, countryside, beach type person.
Okay.
Yeah. I picked the smallest island in Thailand the first time I went, and my friends were like, why are you going there? There's like nothing to do. I'm like, well, I rock climb, and that's the rock climbing island, so I'm going to the rock climbing island. And they're just like, but all the parties happened on the other side, and it was New Year's. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to party. I'm going to rock climb.
That's awesome.
One road, and and then I went the second time and went to like the second smallest island. There's nothing to do here. Yeah, but I came to cliff jump and sit on the beach. Like, it's fine.
Cool. And that's one of the great things about being able to sort of chart your own path, is that you can do the things you want to do even if your people don't want to do them, because you can, you're living your best life, and there's a lot of focusing in on you and what you like in this time. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
do you have any advice for women who are afraid to take the leap?
Save your coins. Make sure you have money, because when you come back, the job might not just materialize like that, depending on your industry. Be okay with working somewhere or doing something that is not your known career or dream job or whatever, just to be able to see the bigger picture and like have the luxury of continuing to travel or whatever. It's like, yeah, I might not want to be a barista, but if I can stay in Thailand for 3 more months, let me go home and get these barista coins for 2 or 3 months so I can get that plane ticket to go back to Thailand. Like, I feel like for me, like setting my pride aside to just work out this new lifestyle, just being okay with change. It's a lot of changes. Like, that's the one thing. Like, you have to be adaptable if you want to live this lifestyle, because your circumstances changes, your environment changes, the culture changes, and then how you feel around all that changes. Like, you could be like super gung-ho about traveling and you get into it and you're like, oh, like you could just not love it, or you love it a lot and you want to keep doing it, and I got to figure out how to keep, like, there's just so much. So just be ready to be malleable.
Okay. That's great advice, and it's definitely advice I've had to apply to my life as I did my own journey. So thank you for joining me today. If you're not already following Samantha, give us your IG.
My IG is don't forget the THE, Queen of Vacations, and don't forget the S.
The Queen of Vacations. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. We look forward to seeing more of your arts and photography on the gram and more of your travels.
Thank you.
Thank you.